The recording. Hello, everyone. My name is Marian Friedel, and I'm a member of the monthly meeting team. And I'm really happy to welcome you today to the monthly meeting team of 350 Wisconsin. And I'd like to introduce you to the other members of the monthly meeting team that we have with us today, which is Susan Nossel, who will be doing the tech behind the scenes. So thank you for that, Susan. Before we begin, let's ground ourselves in wherever we are and take 2 deep breaths. This four-lake region, known as Tejope in the language of the Ho-Chunk people, is the land that they have continuously inhabited since time immemorial. I'd like to acknowledge the role of the United States government and settlers from Europe and the role they played in repeated but ultimately unsuccessful efforts to forcibly remove all Ho-Chunk people from these lands. I call on us to further acknowledge that the impact and trauma of colonization exists to this day and needs to inform our understanding of becoming allies with the Ho-Chunk Nation. May we find inspiration in their resilience and their vision of stewardship of the land. So first we'll go over overview of tonight's meeting. We're still and Susan will put up a slide for that, I think. Is there a slide, Susan?
Let me see. I am.
It could be that there isn't, and that's okay.
Yeah, I don't think.
Okay, that's fine. So, I just want to pause first and just extend an extra warm welcome to anyone who is here for the first time, and I hope you feel welcome. And I want to publicly state that we want 350 Wisconsin's public meetings to be welcoming and supportive for all people, regardless of backgrounds or identity. Our code of conduct is being shared in the chat to provide more context. Um, and you can contact one of us on the monthly meeting team if you have any questions. Um, so we'll be starting with our speaker for tonight, Amy Alstad, and we'll do some um, we'll do some announcements after that, some question and answers after the talk, and we'll interact with the speaker a little bit, and then we'll have some announcements. And then at the end, if there's more interest, if there's interest in further discussion with the speaker, we'll have a breakout room for that, as well as a breakout room for any new people that may want to get more information about 350.
Um,
So, is there anything I need to add to that, Susan?
let's see. Only if we wanted to do a maybe the breakout rooms. Would we like to do the breakout rooms at the beginning? And or should we just go to the speaker maybe?
Um, let's just go to speaker.
Okay.
I didn't know
I
about
have
it.
a I have a question, which
Oh,
would be like, what
you
do you
do.
look?
Okay. Yes,
Yeah.
then let's do it. Let's do it.
Okay. So the question is, and we'll put it in the chat too, if there as we start the new year, what is something that we're like looking forward to engaging with 350 Wisconsin or other, social
Yeah.
justice, environmental justice efforts. So
Yeah, so these groups are just in lieu of introductions of every person that's here. We'll just get to know one or two other people that we can chat with for how long will we be going for, Susan?
probably about 5 to 7 minutes.
And we'll
Okay.
pull you back when
Yeah. Um, so we're just writing it into the chat and then we'll be teleporting in just a moment. Um, something along these lines. And just as Marion said, an opportunity to get to know one another too. So I think I'm ready to open the breakout rooms. So I will create them now. Oh, open all rooms. Let us know if you need any help too. Is there anybody here who would like some help to get to another room? You no need to go, but if you would like to and you want us to help you get into the room, please let us know too. There should be like a little join button. And maybe we'll wait till about 7:15 or so, Marion, and give people a little time to get to talk with one another. There's a lot to talk about, probably.
Sure.
How does that sound?
Sorry about that. I was unprepared, I guess, for that. I forgot. But
No, I was just very distracted today.
so was I.
No worries. I'm gonna put the question. I think the question will be something that people can engage with. I hope.
Yeah. Or they'll figure something else out.
Yeah, I'll put that into the chat into here. Nope, it's all good. I think. See, I think there might be someone else coming. A few minutes.
Oh, I should turn off the recorder.
Oh, that's a good
Recording back. So we're very excited today to welcome Amy Alstad, and I will spotlight you. Welcome, Amy. Amy is going to be our speaker for this month's meeting. Amy is the Director of Land Management and Environmental Education at Holy Wisdom Monastery. She has a PhD in prairie ecology from UW-Madison, more than a decade of professional experience in the field of restoration ecology, and a deep-rooted family tradition of restoring and tending prairies that spans 4 generations. She will share stories and photos weaving together the past, present, and future of ecological restoration at Wisdom Prairie. And welcome, Amy, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for that, Marion. Here, I'm just going to start sharing my slides and go up here. Everybody see this successfully? Great, I got a thumbs up. It is really, I'm really happy to be here with all of you tonight. Thank you for the invitation, for that nice introduction. It was really fun to be in the breakout session just now. I'm not a member of 350, but I am an admirer and an appreciator of all the good work you do. And as of just a minute ago, thanks to breakout session number 8, I'm also newly versed in deep canvassing, and that sounds like very cool work. So it's a pleasure to be here. And I think where I'll start, so this presentation, I'm calling this presentation Healing Land, Lakes, and Spirits at an Ecumenical Benedictine Monastery, when I am giving this talk in person, I love to get a sense from an audience how many people have been to Holy Wisdom. We can do this on Zoom. It's not quite so easy, but it still works. So I think my opening question or invite for all of you will be to drop into a chat either a yes or no. Have you ever been to Holy Wisdom? And that'll help me sort of gauge how familiar this group is and how in depth my intro should be. So I'll start taking a peek at that chat, whether you've been for a walk on the trails, been in the building. All right, we're seeing plenty of yeses. I like the yeses with the exclamation points. Those are nice. Not everybody has been though. So I think I am going to go ahead and just spend a little bit of time before we get into the prairie side of this story. I'm going to spend a little bit of time on kind of the second half of this title, the Ecumenical Benedictine Monastery. I know that I, for one, when I started working at Holy Wisdom 5 years ago, I had just a very iffy, shaky grasp of what those three words mean, and especially what those three words in paired together mean. So by way of introduction and background, let's go ahead. Let's see. Why are my slides not advancing here? Oh, here we go. They're just advancing slowly. So I'm going to break down Ecumenical Benedictine Monastery, just so we're all starting on the same page. Monastery, at its simplest, simply means a place where a religious community lives and works. So in the case of Holy Wisdom Monastery, this monastery is the home of the Benedictine women of Madison. They've been at Holy Wisdom for more than 70 years. And this photo that we're looking at here shows some of the first three sisters who originally came from their mother community, which was in Sioux City, Iowa. They came to Dane County in 1953 and started a Catholic girls' high school in the present location of Holy Wisdom. So that's monastery. The Benedictine part of that title refers to the fact that this order of women religious are Benedictines. All of them are members of the Order of Saint Benedict. And this order of monastics has a particular set of values and practices compared to other monastic traditions. Particularly relevant for our conversation tonight, one of the things that sets Benedictines apart from others is they have a really deep commitment to place, a real sense of stability. So whereas other monastic orders tended to do a lot of pilgrimages, peregrinations, wandering from place to place, Benedictine monastics earned a nickname of lovers of place. So they really tended to set down deep roots and get to know in a very sustained and intimate way the place where their monastery was located. So that's Benedictine monastery. And then for that last part, the ecumenical part, for the past 25 years or so, this order, the Benedictine Women of Madison, have been fully ecumenical, which is quietly radical is the case so often for this group of women. In the original photo that I showed with the three sisters, the black and white photo in front of the lake, at that point, the Benedictine Women of Madison were not ecumenical. All three of those sisters were Catholic, but in a long, slow process, they formally withdrew themselves from the Catholic Church, having kind of done some deep introspection and reflection, discernment, decided that the Catholic Church did not represent a lot of their really deeply held morals and convictions. And so they became formally ecumenical, no longer formally affiliated with the Catholic Church, but rather they are an interdenominational, inter-Christian community. And that is true both of the group of sisters themselves. So the four sisters pictured here On the right in the blue vest, this is Sister Lynn Smith. She is the current prioress of the Sisters community, and she's actually not Catholic. Prior to joining the group, she was a Presbyterian minister. So it's true both of the Sisters community itself, as well as a lot of the communities that have grown up around the Sisters community, the Sunday Assembly worship community, the Oblate community, the volunteer community. There are a lot of ways that people get involved at Holy Wisdom Monastery, and all of those groups are interfaith, multiple faith, all religious backgrounds and persuasions. So ecumenical Benedictine monastery, and since the very beginning, the mission of the sisters has been weaving prayer, hospitality, justice, and care for the earth into a shared way of life. Because you invited the land restoration staff person today, this talk is going to talk a lot about that fourth pillar of the mission, the care for the earth. But know that all four of these mission pillars are alive and well at Holy Wisdom today. So in just a minute, we'll get really into this story of how and why the sisters have gone all in on restoring Prairie. But before I do that, I want to pause and just acknowledge the fact that the sisters are certainly not the first group of people that have loved and tended this land. All of the 131 acres that the monastery owns today were purchased by the sisters from European descended farm families. So all of this is former agricultural land. The red barn that's still standing today with a fresh paint job and a new metal roof on the east side of our property is a living legacy of that chapter of human relationship with this place. And of course, like your beautiful land acknowledgement at the beginning of this meeting, referenced, we are also Holy Wisdom Monastery, like all of Dane County, is located in the ancestral homeland of the Ho-Chunk Nation. So hundreds and hundreds of generations of Ho-Chunk land stewards were cultivating a relationship to this place prior to this modern moment. And I actually like to start these talks with this graphic. So here we are looking at an artist's representation of Lake Mendota and all of the many oral traditions that the Ho-Chunk have surrounding this landscape. All surrounding the entire shoreline of this lake. But this is a good launch point for our particular story, because if you look up here in the northwest corner of Lake Mendota, up in the upper left-hand corner of the screen, we can see this graphic of Lost Lake. So Lost Lake exists on land that is now owned by the monastery. Here is a relatively recent photo of Lost Lake in a winter. And this is a great place to start the story of kind of the how and why of prairie restoration at Holy Wisdom Monastery, because it really marked a turning point. So ever since the sisters first arrived to this land 70 plus years ago, care for the earth was a core part of the mission. But the way that the sisters were kind of living out and manifesting that mission has certainly evolved over the years. They didn't jump right in 70 years ago and start planting prairie. And Lost Lake tells a really sort of explains the beginning of the prairie restoration. So to explore this story, I am going to show you a series of aerial photos. So these are historical aerial images taken from an airplane. This first photo was shot in 1937. And just to orient you here, we are looking at a 40-acre piece of land. So 40 acres square. Each side of this square is a quarter-mile long. And this is the first 40 acres of farmland that the sisters purchased, bought from the Kennedy family in 1953. And this is Lost Lake. So this feature in the upper left-hand corner, in the northwest corner of the 40-acre square, is Lost Lake. We know from historical records that Lost Lake was originally somewhere around 15 feet deep and 5 to 6 acres surface area in size. But that was not static over time. So we're going to jump ahead 20 years here. We're looking at the exact same piece of land There are probably a couple things that your eye notices change-wise. The first one over on the right-hand side of this photo is a big construction project. The sisters bought this land in 1953. So in 1955, they were deep into the work of constructing what today we call the retreat and guest house. So this is a big construction project, but I really want to draw your attention to look at the lake and see these concentric circles. See how we're starting to see a little bit of shrinkage there in Lost Lake. And we're going to jump ahead one more time here to now we're in the mid 70s, and Lost Lake has shrunk once again. The construction project is complete, but look over on the left side of this photo and you can see, not only has the surface area of the lake shrunk, but those trees have started moving in. It's a little bit hard to see with the black and white scale of the photos, so I took the liberty of drawing in blue here, the open water. And here's where you really can start to see how this lake basin is shrinking and filling in. And it's literally filling in. So context here to kind of explain this process, why we're seeing this shrinkage of the lake over the decades. Lost Lake is what's called an internally drained area. So it's located within the Yahara watershed, but it's not actually connected to Mendota or any of the other lakes chain through Madison. But it's sort of a dead end. It's nested within that larger watershed, and there's about 100 acres of land that drain directly into Lost Lake, which then has no outlet. And what happened over the course of these decades, so 100, 150 years or so of agricultural land use is, and especially before agricultural land use got smarter about some of the no-till and contour farming, conservation practices that we know today, there was a lot of erosion happening. So a big rainfall event would come through and tons of stormwater would carry sediment and erosion, and this lake basin was literally filling in. So in the mid 90s, and the sisters had been there since the mid 50s, so they were watching Lost Lake shrink, literally be lost right in front of their eyes. And finally, in the mid 90s, in consultation with a lot of local partners, scientists from UW, DNR, they decided to do a full restoration of this lake. So it had shrunk down to less than an acre in open water surface area, and it was only 18 inches deep. Remember, 18 inches down from all the way from the original 15 feet deep. And they decided to restore Lost Lake to its original surface area, original depth, and recontour these shorelines. So these are photos taken in the late 90s. It was a several-year project, a really major undertaking, more than 85,000 cubic yards of silt and sediment, good topsoil that belonged on the neighbors' fields, but had ended up in this lake basin, was removed from the lake. And then as the final phase of the reconstruction process, they planted prairie, wetlands, sedges, all native perennial plant species on the recontoured shores of this lake. So here is what Lost Lake looked like. This is a couple years ago, but post reconstruction and post restoration process. Today, Lost Lake is really kind of the crown jewel. It's a really special part of this landscape. When people come on retreat in the monastery, we find that they're really drawn to the benches surrounding Lost Lake. It's a real hotspot for birds. If any of you are birders in this group, this is a great place to head first with your binoculars if you come out for a hike at Holy Wisdom Monastery. And it's a real success story. But one of the things that I really admire and appreciate about the sisters is they didn't just sort of stop at this success story. They could have paused there and sort of patted themselves on the back and said, we did a really marvelous job restoring this lake, and move on to the next thing. But instead of doing that, they really used it as a catalyst, because they were doing a lot of thinking and asking questions of, okay, we just spent all of this time, money, effort restoring Lost Lake. How do we make sure we keep it protected and we keep it healthy? And the same erosion and infiltration, in siltation, the basin does not continue to fill up with silt and sediment. And the short answer to that question is prairie. Prairie plants, they're deep-rooted perennial plants. They're really good at holding water in place, promoting infiltration to the groundwater rather than surface water. They build soil nutrients, provide great habitat. So the sisters got super sold on the benefits of prairie, basically, after doing this lake restoration. And so they used Lost Lake as a real catalyst and now here's the next decade of land restoration effort at Holy Wisdom. I've got just dozens and dozens and dozens of photos that look almost exactly like this, because it didn't happen overnight. It takes time, it takes care, it takes access to seeds to really restore this many acres of prairie, but slowly, steadily, at average pace of about 10 new acres of prairie planted every year. For the next, having completed the Lost Lake restoration project, the sisters moved on and moved into this decade of restoring prairie, and really didn't stop until every last acre on the monastery property that is suitable for prairie was restored. And so that's totaled about 130 acres of prairie. All of these are restored or reconstructed prairies. There aren't any remnant prairies. So in all cases, we're doing what these volunteers are pictured doing here, planting into a previous corn or soybean agricultural field. And we just moved all around the map. So this photo is taken in the southeast corner of the property. If you're familiar with County Road M, and there's that big bend that goes around the prairie, the red barn is tucked in this tree line right here, right in the center of this photo. Patch by patch, 10 acres or so at a time, we planted more than 130 acres of prairie. I want to pause here and acknowledge the really important role that volunteers and partners played in this endeavor. Certainly, this was a much, much bigger undertaking than the sisters community themselves, or even the staff. The staff at the monastery and the sisters were outmatched by the scale and scope of this project. So volunteer help has been just absolutely critical every step of the way. And also a lot of really strong partnerships. So local groups, Dane County Parks, Southern Wisconsin Bird Alliance, the DNR, state parks. There's been a lot of support, seed sharing, seed swapping, technical expertise offered along the way. A couple of years ago, we hit kind of a milestone landmark where all of the prairie planting was done. I'm going to pause here and just say done is a tricky little sneaky word. And I'll circle back to done and some of the wrong ways that it can be interpreted in a moment. But suffice it to say, we're still caring for all the prairie. We're not done taking care of the prairie, but we are done planting more prairie. And so a couple of years ago, we started focusing on some of the other patches of the map at the grounds at Holy Wisdom, and sort of moved into a new chapter where we're restoring oak savannas. This is a before and after picture. So on the left, you're looking at a photo of staff and volunteers in front of an absolute wall of buckthorn. And then on the right, that's the after photo. It takes quite a lot more work, effort, labor to prepare an acre of ground to be planted to oak savanna, just because first there's that physical removal and cleanup of all of the invasive woody shrubby species. But so the photo on the right shows kind of a pre-planting condition once that understory has been removed. This next couple slides I tucked in special for this group. I think 350 folks will be in particular appreciative of this. Historically, a lot of land restoration, and especially oak savanna restoration, where you're clearing out all of those unwanted woody invasive species, has required building and burning a lot of brush piles. In this photo, you can take a peek at some of those brush piles that we were building, which historically we would have burned and just sort of accepted the carbon and particulate emissions from those brush pile burns as sort of a necessary cost, a necessary evil of doing this work of restoring the ecological health of the land. But just in the last couple of years, we have adopted a new practice where we are burning all of our brush piles in a biochar kiln. So this large, round, circular object in the middle of this group of volunteers here looks like a culvert. Doesn't look very fancy, but when tipped on its side and put over a brush pile, we can burn all of those woody debris, woody scraps in a low oxygen, so oxygen controlled environment. So rather than volatilizing all of that carbon and the particulates, we're actually sequestering it in the form of char, which, in and of itself, just the avoided emissions is a bonus. But as a double bonus, we have a lot of gardens and orchards on site where we're producing local produce that goes straight into the monastery kitchen. And that biochar is an amazing soil amendment that improves the nutrient retention, the water retention, the structure. It makes really, really nice soil. So we're really excited to be sort of adjusting our practices. They've been ecologically friendly for a long time, but now they're even that much more climate friendly. And here I'm going to return to that sneaky little word, done. Really, and for those of you who are in this land care world, probably appreciate this. I might be preaching to the choir here, but you're really never done with the work of taking care of this planet of ours. So even in the acres where we've completed the planting, the native plant community is diverse and robust, and we're really happy with it. We're still working on, for example, removal of non-native or invasive species. Here's a volunteer with a massive pile of burdock, which she just pulled out of that prairie. We're constantly working on seed collection, so harvesting native seeds. Pictured on the right here, this is a lupin seed harvest. And either we're moving seeds from one part of the property to a new part of the property where that species is missing, or maybe we're swapping seeds with another conservation group. We have, in this particular case with the wild lupin, we have a really robust lupin population, a lot of amazing clumps or clones, patches of lupin, wild lupin in the prairies at the monastery. And there are a lot of groups who are working hard on getting that species established in their property, on their lands elsewhere in Dane County. And then last but not least, prescribed fire is also a really important part of the historical kind of maintenance. And, this is a real revitalization process. So we use fire somewhere on the property annually, which is not to say that any one prairie is getting burned every single year. We're moving it around the landscape, but almost every year we do have fire somewhere in some part of this restored landscape. So I'm just about at the end here. Oops, one more series of slides. But before I move on to a couple last thoughts, I want to pause. I've talked quite a bit about the how. We're working on invasive species. We're planting native seed mixes into agricultural fields to restore them. And I talked a tiny little bit about the why. The sisters saw the lake filling up and were then sort of motivated to use the benefits of that prairie confers to help protect that lake. But there's also kind of a deeper underlying why to all of this land care work at Holy Wisdom Monastery, which distinguishes it. Here in Dane County, we're so lucky. We have the Arboretum and all of these wonderful Dane County parks, Governor Nelson State Park. There's a lot of restored, ecologically healthy habitats that is not too far from where many of us live. But what's really different about what's happening at Holy Wisdom Monastery is all of this land care work at the monastery is really grounded in and grows out of the sisters' Benedictine values. And they have this really deep, profound belief that what they're doing is not just ecological restoration, but it's spiritual restoration. And that the ecological and spiritual renewal are not two different things, but they're in fact inextricably linked. And they're very intentionally curating a space where both of those things, both of those processes can exist together. There are many different doors. I know a lot of you said you'd already found your way into one Holy Wisdom Monastery door or another, but something that's particularly on my mind when I talk to a group like yours, and it's something the staff and sisters have been talking a lot about at the monastery recently, is how Holy Wisdom can offer kind of a sanctuary. And in particular, when I think of a hardworking group like of climate activists, like all of you, just, recognizing the need that the world needs the work that you're doing, and you also need to have a place where you can fill your cup and pause and recharge and find the courage and the strength and the energy and the capacity to keep on doing that. And at the end of the day, that's really what the sisters are trying to create, is a sanctuary where all of the activists and caregivers and educators and all of the people doing all of this amazing work in the community can come and really find that spark, find that joy, find that rest that they need to keep doing the work they're doing. Marian, how am I doing on time? I've got a couple more. If anybody's interested, I could talk a little bit about some of the renewable energy and going net zero, or I could also pause there and I will defer to your call. Maybe 3 or 5 more minutes.
I think we could do 3 more minutes and then we'll take some questions. Would that work for you?
Yes, that
Okay.
sounds great. I'll be speedy. But I am glad for the opportunity to acknowledge that, care for the earth does not end with the ecological work that the monastery and the sisters are doing. This is a photo of the monastery building, which was opened in 2009. This is a LEED Platinum building, so highest rated for sustainable energy design. And not only is the design and the sourcing, the materials of the building itself very highly renewable, but the sisters have this real commitment to going fully net zero. This is a photo from 2014, more than 10 years ago now. So the first thing the sisters did in the renewable space was to fill every last square inch of rooftop that was suitable for solar with solar, and all of the rooftop solar you can see in this photo in combination with one geothermal system, which was under that top parking lot, also in this photo. That got the monastery to about 60% renewable. And they sort of stalled there for a while, but the goal was always to go to a fully net zero, 100% powered by renewable energy. And that was a milestone that the monastery was really proud to reach in 2024. So the addition of this 300 kilowatt ground mounted solar system in the foreground of this photo here, also in combination with one more geothermal system, got the monastery to a fully net zero. So it's not just the prairie, it's not just the restored wetlands and oak savanna. It is also, care for the earth is woven all throughout the work of the monastery. And it's just really, really neat that the sisters are leading the way in this space. All right, and that is everything I've got. It sounds like this group has already found a lot of doors, so I don't need to beat the bush too much. There are a lot of ways to connect with Holy Wisdom. I'll just move right on here, put up my contact info. If anybody wants to get in touch with me to learn more about opportunities for getting involved or learning more, I'd be happy to share.
Thank you, Amy. That was so interesting and so good. I have a number of questions myself, but I want to ask the group. If you have any questions, you could raise your virtual hand. I just saw a few in the chat. One was maybe asked before your explanation. Valerie asks, is Lost Lake, oh, I just lost it. Is Lost Lake a spring ephemeral pond?
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you for that question and for keeping an eye on the chat. I can't multitask that well. It is not. So Lost Lake is interesting in that it's entirely ground fed. So no surface, or sorry, it's entirely surface fed. There's no groundwater, spring water coming up from that lake. it's a good question.
Thank you. Mark and Alice.
Yes, I want to share with Amy and everyone. I belong to the Society for Ecological Restoration, and I suggest Amy and the rest of you consider joining. They have monthly wonderful workshops. You go into great detail like this talk all across the country, and and then you can that way you're participating with this ecological restoration. You follow one of the basic principles. One of the things that we've all found is if you remove the invasives first in a new area you're tackling, you only have to plant about 1/4 as many natives. The others have been waiting and waiting to pop up, and then the local ecotype. So Society for Ecological Restoration, I suggest you consider joining.
Thank you. Maybe you could put some information in the chat about that. Amy, I had a question about uh, just if you had any, or if you could pick one of your the ways that the prairie restoration has surprised you, um, or some you ran into something you weren't expecting, or something that delighted you. I'm sure there's many things.
Oh, what a lovely question. Um, well, I'm not sure. Yeah, boy, there are a lot of things that are popping into my head in response to that question, Marion. I think one of the things that I'm most grateful about for my job is just being out in the prairie on an almost daily basis and how nourishing and healing I find that relationship to be. Um, I think one of the most delightful things about my job is how many people deeply, deeply love this prairie. And I've been involved in prairie restoration with a lot of different organizations, professionally, privately, and Holy Wisdom is really unique in how many supporters and cheerleaders and stewards this prairie has. And that has just been a real source of delight for me. I really, really love watching the reciprocal relationship build between people and place, and how, this people spend their time, their energy healing the land, and in return, they get so much healing delivered straight back from the land.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Any other questions or comments? I have another one. I'm going to ask it. So we saw the slide with the seeds, throwing the seeds, and it was all like farmland. But then we also saw your oak savanna restoration with all the buckthorn and all the invasives there. So was that able to, were the buckthorn able to get hold between the time like the farming ended and the restoration began? Or I don't know if I'm making that's a clear question, but
I think I understand, yeah, what you're asking, and I appreciate that question. Um, we are, I think it varies. So here's a very sciencey answer for you. It depends.
I see. Okay.
Um, and I won't bore you with a long, long litany of all of the contingencies, but basically, when you're looking at how densely invaded is a woodland, how, what's the sort of density of the buckthorn, what's the age of the buckthorn, how long have they been there, it varies based on the land use history. So one thing we know is that actually some grazing can help keep the understory of a savanna or a woodland open. So in that way, we're still looking at this final closing slide. Here was the barn. This was before the paint job. Here was the barn before it got freshly red again. But a lot of the oak woodlands that we're restoring are in real close proximity, so probably had pretty heavy grazing pressure. And that legacy of the cattle, maybe there were some sheep, maybe there were some hogs running through that woodland, probably removed some of the tastier sedges and wildflowers, but it also probably kept open that understory. So it really wasn't until the loss, and here you get into kind of the history of small family farms being replaced by bigger, more corn and soybean focused operations. But it's the loss, the combined loss of both the disturbance by the grazers and any prescribed burning or cultural burning. So in the loss of those two processes, which are good at keeping the buckthorn out, you start seeing the buckthorn creep in.
Thank you. I do have one other good question, which is, has the prairie restoration proven, this is from Michael, has the prairie restoration proven sufficient to stop the decline in the area of Lost Lake?
Oh, I love getting that question. What a great group. And we have just recently started monitoring efforts aimed explicitly at that question. So if you'll recall, the Lost Lake restoration was completed in 1999, and that makes it just over 25 years old. And for about 20 years, we really didn't have very good baseline data. We were kind of keeping track of the surface area, but we didn't have any good systematic way to measure the accumulation of sediment. And I wish I had a photo of this. Let's see, there is a chance that I put a couple photos in the, so here, this slide at the back, this is one of my just in case slides. So I'm glad I got this question. This speaks to some of our monitoring efforts. We've got a lot of different monitoring efforts that we're maintaining to help understand the flora and the fauna and how our restoration work is changing the land. On the left there, you're looking at our gauge in the water. So this measures the surface level of the lake. And then we're also doing during the winter, we go out when the ice is strong enough, and we we take a fishing auger, we drill through the ice, and then can use a probe to determine the depth of accumulation of sediment on the bottom of the lake. And I'm really happy to say that the sediment accumulation has been minimal. So in 25 years, the prairie and the restructured banks of Lost Lake are doing exactly what they're supposed to be. So that lake has not appreciably shrunk at all in the last 25 years, and long may it be so.
Wow, thank you. Yeah, that's great. Okay, very last question, Terry.
Yes, actually, it's more of a comment than a question. I have been attending the Prairie Festival at the Land Institute in Salina, Kansas for many years, and that's where my appreciation of prairie and the depth of the root structure and what wonderful things that could do for agriculture has come from. Are you familiar with the Land Institute? They have wonderful information about prairie.
I am. Yeah, thank you for naming them and their good work.
Thank you, Terry.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. And we'll have a little more time at the end of when our announcements are done, that we can join Amy in a breakout room for a little while if anybody's interested in that. But for now, I'm just going to run through to see if we have any announcements from the different teams or staff members. Stephanie or Emily, do you have any announcements?
I don't, but I know some other staff members do.
And I
Okay,
think we have some slides, so
great.
I could possibly share those if that would help.
That would, because we don't, yeah, that'd be great. Thank you. Here we go.
All right. I think this first one might be Brittany.
It is Brittany. Yes, thanks, Nikki. Let me turn my volume up here so you can hear me. All right. You may have heard about the Fish for the Future campaign that we were a part of last year. It was a pretty big thing for a pretty good chunk of time in 2025. And it's really amazing because the fish are still swimming on and making a big splash all across the state and actually across the country. And we currently have a display at Garver Feed Mill. So if you are located in Madison, in the Madison area, you can stop by there and check out a little mini installation of the amazing over 86,000 fish that were folded for that project. And it'll be up at least through June, so you have some time to check it out. And if you do stop there, let us know by taking a picture. Snap a picture, post it on social media, and tag us. Let us know. Or you can email it to me. I will put my email in the chat with the next slide too.
Brittany, I have a question.
Yeah.
Could you just review what the Fish for the Future was about?
Sure, yeah. So the Fish for the Future campaign was something that a lot of us, several different organizations put together to raise awareness about the threats of the Line 5 pipeline in northern Wisconsin. So the goal was to fold and break the world record for origami fish. And I think I'm never going to forget the number. The number we needed to beat it was 18,304, and we ended up folding well over 86,000 fish, which was amazing.
It's amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. This is also me. So you may have seen a few emails lately about the new data center campaign that we're going to be launching specific to 350 Wisconsin. There's a lot of great work going on around the state. A lot of concern about data centers popping up all over in the state. So we're going to be having the virtual kickoff meeting for the data center campaign on January 27th at 6 p.m. It'll be just an hour for this first meeting, get our feet under us and try to get a plan together for moving forward. And if you're interested in joining, you can email me at that email listed on the screen, and I will put it in the chat as well.
All right, so the next one is me. So every year for the past 3-4 years or so, we have been making an appearance at the Garden and Green Living Expo at the Alliant Energy Center. This is huge. I mean, there are thousands of people that attend this, tons of vendors, and we really like to use this as an opportunity to get our word out there, share the good work that we're doing, recruit for volunteers, and just generally raise awareness about climate issues. And because it's such a huge thing, we do need quite a few volunteers to make it run smoothly. It's a 3-day event, and we have several shifts that we're hoping that people can help us fill. You don't have to be an expert in tabling, in climate, in 350 Wisconsin to be able to do this. It's a ton of fun. And also, we aren't sending anybody out there alone. So we have multiple people per shift. And we have a sign-up genius here that I will put in the chat when I am done sharing my screen here. But hope to see you all there. Also, if you choose to volunteer for this, you get free passes. And that is, I think, normally $15 or something. And you're only going to be volunteering for a portion of the actual expo. So that means you have plenty of time to experience the rest of what the expo has to offer. All right, Mark.
Alrighty. So with the new year brings new opportunities, and one of those is the massive opportunity for change that we can bring with the elections this year. As part of that, our team is recruiting members for the political action team. It's a volunteer-led group that helps shape our strategy for the upcoming elections, our work. They help advise us on different things, help us determine which races we're going to be endorsing in, and advise us on messaging and on-the-ground outreach. Those are the core responsibilities of them, and then we have meetings about once every 2 weeks. From there, any members can can get more involved as they see fit. If they want to get more involved in research or helping plan things, that is up to them if they want to. It is not required. What we really need is volunteers who can help shape and advise our efforts, because we want to make sure we're bringing in as many different perspectives as possible. So if you are interested, my email, mark.putman@350wisconsin.org, is here. In addition to the fall elections, I encourage y'all not to sleep on the spring elections, where we are going to be electing a state Supreme Court justice for 10 years, I believe, and we will have local elections across the state. It's just as important, and so just wanted to make sure and keep an eye out for any future volunteer opportunities, door knocking, that kind of stuff. Alrighty, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Is
All
that
right. That's me again. So as Mark mentioned, we have opportunities with our political action team. We also have, like Brittany said, opportunities with our data center team. And I just wanted to highlight those and a couple of other upcoming volunteer opportunities that we're really looking for. So Climate Connectors is our group of people who are interested in tabling. This doesn't mean you have to be available for tabling all the time. It's just about being able to connect with people about climate at various events and opportunities where we can share our message. So we are looking for more people who are interested in that generally. And we will be having a training as well on how to maximize your impact when you are connecting with people on climate. We're also looking for some team leadership for a couple of our teams. If you're interested in that kind of thing, please let me know. And also our monthly meeting team, the wonderful team that is running this particular meeting, is looking for some additional folks as well. So if you have any interest in any of these roles or anything else within 350 Wisconsin, please send me a message. I'll put my email in the chat. But I am the volunteer coordinator for 350 Wisconsin. I'm Nikki, and I will be happy to connect with you. And also at the end of this meeting, we'll have a couple of breakouts. So one with the speaker, and then anybody who is brand new, if you're interested in volunteering, stick around and we can talk about what that looks like. Speaking of which, so typically when we have brand new people join, I like to set up a meeting with you, get to know you a little bit, figure out what kind of things you're interested in doing. But we're also starting some in-person volunteer orientations for people who would like to engage in that way, and also so that we can have this discussion with a few people at the same time. So we do have an upcoming volunteer orientation that is happening on Thursday, January 22nd at the Friends Meeting House in Madison. And I have a registration form that I will also put in the chat if you are interested in that, if you are new, or if you just want to brush up on all the things that we do, that's fine too. And, there'll be some snacks and should be a good time. And yeah, so I highly encourage that if you're looking to get more involved, but maybe aren't quite sure what you'd like to do yet. All right, and I will pass this back to Marion.
Thank you. And so here are our upcoming meetings. Upcoming monthly meetings in February will be about the data center, so that'll be really, really good. So right now, this concludes the formal part of the meeting. Amy will be available in a breakout room for us, and Susan will give us the details about that. And then if you're new to 350 and would like to speak with Nikki, you could just stay here in the main room. Is that okay with you, Nikki? Or yeah, okay. So
I also created a room for that too, so it's up to you. But you can stay here.
okay, so the newcomers will stay here, and then you could do a room for speaking with Amy.
Oh, I've created two. I can
Okay, great. Thank you. So you just go down to where it says are you going to open it? Did you open it? Oh yeah, here it is. So you got to scroll down, and then at the bottom it says welcome to newcomers or discussion with speaker, and you can join that, and Susan will help anybody that needs help getting to the room.
And thank you so much to Amy too.
Thank you to Amy. Okay, and for everyone else, thank you for coming and have a good rest of the evening.